Welcome to Millennium Daytime Bulletin. I'm Shweta Simar from New Delhi and you're watching Millennium News Channel 24. Today I'm bringing you the latest news from around the world. Let's begin with today's top headlines. Hamas to release 3 Israeli men Saturday in latest rounds of exchanges under ceasefire deal. Dozens of countries back International Criminal Court after Trump sanctions. Ecuador chooses president against backdrop of gang violence. Sweden to tighten gun laws after mass shooting at school. Treated like criminals, shackling off Indians abroad 40 hours migrant flight sparks new outrage against Trump. Trudeau says Trump is serious about wanting to annex Canada. Bangladeshi protesters destroy ex-PM's family home symbolizing independence. Global market slips as US stock tumbles, volatility rises amid investor caution. Chelsea breaks world transfer record for a women's soccer player to sign Naomi Girma. "6,000 runs and 600 wickets, Jadeja join elite club." Now let's look at the details. Hamas has released the name of 3 Israeli men it said it would free from Gaza on Saturday in what will be the 5th round of exchanges under the ongoing ceasefire. Ohad Ben Emi, Eli Sharabi and Or Levi are expected to be released on the 491st day of their captivity, the Israeli Prime Minister office confirmed. Scores of Palestinian prisoners are due to be released in return. Ben Emi, 56-year-old, was kidnapped on October 7, 2023 from his home in Kibbutz Be'eri. His wife Raz Ben Emi was also taken captive and was freed during a ceasefire in November 2023. Sharabi, age 52, was also taken from his home in Kibbutz Be'eri. His wife, daughter were murdered on October 7 according to the kibbutz. His brother Yossi Sharabi was also taken captive, died in Gaza where his body remains according to the Israeli military. Or Levi, age 34, was attending the Nova Music Festival on October 7 when he was kidnapped. His wife Enve was murdered in the attack. In a statement from spokesperson Michael Pekin, Kibbutz Be'eri celebrated the scheduled release of 2 of their residents. With the return of Eli and Ohad, we can breathe a sigh of relief, but it will not be normal until all the hostages return safely to their families and until all the murdered return for burial, Pekin said. The Hostages and Missing Families Forum also welcomed the news of about the hostages that they have returned safely. "We have both a sacred duty and moral right to bring all our brothers and sisters home," the forum said. Under the ceasefire deal agreed in Qatar last month, Hamas was to prioritize releasing women, children, elderly, and those who are sick. Since the ceasefire went into effect on January 19, Hamas and its allies have released 18 hostages held in Gaza, including 5 Thai citizens released outside the parameters of the agreement. In exchange, the Israeli government has released 583 Palestinians held in detention, some serving life sentences for serious offenses, but also a significant number of children held without public charge or trial. Friday's announcement came nearly 3 hours after it was expected, after Israel and Hamas on Friday accused the Israeli government of the continued procrastination and hesitation in implementation of the humanitarian protocol of the agreement. In a statement, group said that the pledge stipulated in the agreement has not been implemented in a specified manner, which exacerbates the suffering of Palestinians in Gaza. The United Nations says the challenges continue in bringing into Gaza some critical humanitarian supplies supplies, though noted that the prices have declined and the distribution of humanitarian supplies within Gaza has become easier. Following the withdrawal of the Israeli military from urban areas, Hamas also said Friday that it expects Israel on Saturday to release 183 Palestinians held in prison in exchange for the 3 Israelis. 18 of the prisoners are serving life sentences, 54 are lesser sentences, and 111 were detained in Gaza Strip after the October 7, 2023. The group said in the statement the charges against the 111 were not clear. Israel is yet to confirm the number and names of the Palestinian prisoners who are expected to be released on Saturday. Dozens of countries have expressed unwavering support for the International Criminal Court (ICC) after US President Donald Trump imposed sanctions on its staff. A majority of member states, including UK, Germany, and France, said that the ICC was a vital pillar for the international justice system. Also, Trump announced the sanctions after hosting Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, the first foreign leader to visit him since returning to power. Last year, the ICC issued an arrest warrant for Netanyahu over alleged war crimes in Gaza, which Israel denies, as well as a Hamas commander. The US has condemned the court's shameful moral equivalency between Israel and Hamas. The US and the Israel do not recognize the authority of the ICC, the only global court with powers to prosecute individuals for genocide, crimes against humanity, and war crimes. It has also previously launched investigation into the US citizens. The ICC counts 125 member states around the world, including the UK and many European nations. The UK, France, and Germany were among the 79 signatories to a joint issuing statement on Friday to condemn Trump executive order. Australia, the Czech Republic, Hungary, and Italy were among that absent. Also earlier on Friday, the ICC had called on its member states and global civil society to stand united for the justice and fundamental human rights. It pledged to continue providing justice and hope to millions of innocent victims of atrocities about the world that people are facing the atrocities. Also, the ICC last year issued arrest warrant for US allied Israeli leaders and a Hamas commander over the war in Gaza. ICC prosecutors have said that there are reasonable grounds to suggest Netanyahu, his former defense minister Yoav Gallant, and the Hamas Mohammed Deif, who have been killed on the last year, bear the criminal responsibility for alleged war crimes and crimes against humanity. But a White House memo circulated on Thursday accused the ICC of creating a shameful moral equivalency between Hamas and Israel by issuing the warrant at the same time. Trump order said the ICC recent action set a dangerous precedent which also threatened to infringe the rights upon the sovereignty of the United States. It argued the ICC undermines the national security and foreign policy work of Washington and its allies. The order has also said the US and Israel are thriving democracies with militaries that strictly adhere to the laws of war. The sanctions were announced while Netanyahu was on visit to Washington. The list of affected individuals has not been announced, but the sanctions could target people who work in ICC investigations. Sanctions could include financial and visa restriction placed on individuals and their families. The court technical and IT operation, including evidence gathering, could also be affected. Observers have voiced fears that victims of alleged atrocities may hesitate to testify. The court inaugural chief prosecutor has told the BBC how the rest of the world response will be most important of all. It's the challenge for all the state parties, for all Europe, UK, South Africa, Argentina, Brazil, Japan, New Zealand, Australia are going to let Mr. Trump to become the global president. Luis Moreno Ocampo told the BBC News Hour program that the UN has called for the measures to be reversed, while the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said the ICC must be able to freely pursue the fight against the global impunity. impunity. The entire town feels like it is in pandemic, locked up without being able to go out and enjoy our lives due to violence. That is how George, not his real name, feels about his neighborhood of Guayaquil, a city in the southern Ecuador. His father, Marcos Elias Leon, was kidnapped there by the Los Tiburones gangs. Also, a person killed every 2 hours in Ecuador and 7 are kidnapped daily according to the government figures. That is why security is the top issue for voters ahead of their first round of presidential election on Sunday, in which incumbent Daniel Noboa is being challenged by 15 other candidates. Whoever wins will be tasked with restoring security to the country, which has gone from being one of the safest to among the most dangerous in the region. The surge in violence is partly down to Ecuador's location and the soaring demand for cocaine in the drug's biggest market like the United States, the United Kingdom, and Europe. Much of the world's cocaine from cocoa leaves grown in Colombia and Peru leaves the continent through Ecuador's ports, and powerful gangs battle to control this lucrative route. Many of these gangs also engage in kidnapping for ransom. Mr. Maruri was one of their victims. Hours after he was seized, George received a text. It read, "I have your father. How much will you pay for the life of your family?" Next morning, he received a video showing his father tied up with a finger being cut off. The gang initially demanded £80,000. George did not have it and began negotiating. They wanted $30,000 or they would cut off another finger. George scrambled to offer them $5,000 and his television, PlayStation, and car. Sweden's right-wing government said on Friday it would seek to tighten gun laws in the wake of country's deadliest mass shooting at an adult education center, where the attacker appeared to have used several of his own licensed rifle. 10 people were shot dead at the campus Rebreska school in the Örebro on Tuesday before the man believed to be the perpetrator, identified by the Reuters source and Swedish media as Rickard Andersson, a 35-year-old Swedish recluse, turned a weapon on himself. Police confirmed on Friday that the suspected shooter was a 35-year-old man and said they have completed the identification of all the victims, although they did not release any names. 7 women and 4 men between the age of 25 and 68 years of age died in Tuesday's attack, including the suspect, police said in the statement. Also, the victims were several Christians who fled persecution in Syria. Police said that they have found no evidence of an ideological motive so far. Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson said that the event had sparked fear and a sense of vulnerability among many people with immigrants' backgrounds in Sweden, calling for everyone to unite and stand behind all that we hold dear together. My thoughts are with the relatives who are now received the call that is the worst one can ever get. You and I want to say that you are not alone. We stand beside you, he said in a social media post on Friday evening. The government has agreed with its far-right backers in parliament to tighten up the vetting process for the people applying for gun licensing and to clamp down on some semi-autonomic weapons. It said the AR-15, an assault rifle based on a military design that has been used in many mass shootings in the United States, was the kind of the weapon that the kind of gun it wanted to be banned. In light of the horrible shooting in Örebro earlier this week, we believe that the right balance is to roll back the regulation and prohibit the kind of weapon, Justice Minister Gunnar Strömmer told the Reuters. He said that it was not clear yet what kind of guns had been used in the attack in Örebro, and banning AR-15 weapon would be a preventive measure. And also we know that the kind of weapons with some changes can become very dangerous, and also that it has been used in what kind of shooting in another country. He said AR-15 rifles have been permitted for hunting since 2023, and Stormer said around 3,500 have been licensed since since then. The US official kept around 100 reported Indian migrants in shackles for their 40-hour flight home, including during bathroom breaks, in the latest incident to spark anger across the overseas as the President Donald Trump migration crackdown begins. Indian lawmakers demonstrated outside Parliament on Thursday, some wearing shackles and others mocking the much-touted friendship between the Trump and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Elsewhere in New Delhi, members of the youth wing of the India's main opposition party burned an effigy of Trump. Last month, the spectacle of Colombian deportees being shackled as they boarded a US deportation flight sparked a bitter dispute between the two countries, with Colombian President Gustavo Petro initially refusing the military plane permission to land. The anger in India comes days ahead of the expected visit by Modi to meet Trump, whom he called a true friend, at the White House. As Kuldeep Singh Dhaliwal, a government minister in the western state of Punjab, where the deportation flight landed, urged Modi to now use his friendship to resolve the issues. Dhaliwal also questioned the unusefulness of this friendship if it cannot help Indian citizens in need. His office said in the statement the flights to India was the longest in distance since the Trump administration began deploying military aircraft for migrant deportation, according to a US official. Our hands were cuffed and ankles tied with chains before we took flight, said the 23-year-old Akshdeep Singh, who arrived Punjab on Wednesday with 103 other deportees. We requested the military official to take it off to eat or go to the bathroom, but they treated us horribly and without any regard whatsoever, Singh added. The way they looked at us, I'll never forget it. We went to the bathroom with the shackles on. Right before landing, they removed the shackles from the women. We saw it for thus that they removed after they landed by the local police officials. US Border Patrol Chief Michael W. Banks also posted a video of the Indian deportees being put into the plane on X, and in his video, shackles are also seen on the wrist and ankles of several men who have been shuffled slowly up the ramp. Donald Trump's recent fixation on absorbing Canada as a real thing, Justin Trudeau has told business leader, warning that the US president wants access to his northern neighbor vast supply of critical minerals. The outgoing prime minister was in Toronto for a hastily called summit of a business and labor leaders seeking to coordinate a response to Trump's looming threat of a 25% tariff on all Canadian imports. Earlier this week, Trump backed away from tariffs that would have devastated Canada's economy, granting one of his country's largest trading partner a 30-day reprieve for further negotiations, but he has continued to mock Canadian sovereignty, repeating his description to the country as the 51st state on social media and repeatedly calling Trudeau governor instead of prime minister. Friday's summit included discussion on stemming the movement of fentanyl, security at the border, and the challenge of interprovincial trade, but Trudeau later told an audience that the president's threat of annexation, often viewed as a negotiating tactic, were serious and should be taken as such. I suggest not only does the Trump administration knows how much the critical minerals we have, but they may have been even to keep talking about absorbing us and making us the 51st state, Trudeau reportedly told attendees. They are very aware of the resources of what we have and very much want to be able to benefit from those, he said. But Mr. Trump has in his mind that one of the easiest way of doing this is absorbing our country. Canada is rich in minerals considered critical to the green energy transition, including lithium, graphite, nickel, copper, and cobalt, and has sought to position itself as a trusted and stable supplier of the commodities to allied nations. Trump threats have been upended the long-standing relationship between the two countries that have dramatically reshaped federal politics and ushered in a new era of patriotism. With an election looming, all parties are scrambling to portray themselves as patriotic and ready to defend the country's sovereignty. In Quebec, where provincial sovereigntists have experienced a surge in popularity, the number of people calling for a referendum on the province's succession has dropped. Also, the secession demands have been closing on lines between December and February. People in Quebec who said they were very proud or proud to be Canadian increased 13 points from 45% to 58%, according to August Reid poll. Thousands of protesters in Bangladesh have taken out their anger at exiled former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina by destroying a family home that came to symbolize the country's independence, and now they say the authoritarianism they believe she stood for. The attack was sparked by a speech that Hasina gave to the supporters from exile in the neighboring India, where she fled last year during a deadly student-led uprising against her 15-year rule. Critics has also accused her of suppressing dissent. The house in the capital Dhaka had been home to Hasina's late father and Bangladesh independent leader Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, who declared the country's formal break from Pakistan there in 1971. He was assassinated in the property in 1975. Hasina later turned the home into a museum. On Wednesday, some protesters threatened to bulldoze the building if the former Prime Minister went ahead with her speech, which marked the start of a month-long protest program by her Awami League political party. The party is trying to gain support amid allegation of attack on its member and other Hasina's backer. As Hasina began speaking, protesters stormed the house and started dismantling the brick walls, later bringing a crane and an excavator to demolish the building. They do not have the power to destroy the country's independence with bulldozers. They may destroy a building, but they won't be able to erase the history, Hasina said in response during her speech, even as the demolition continued. She also called on the people of Bangladesh to resist the country's new leaders and alleged that they took power by unconstitutional means. Hasnat Abdullah, a student leader, had warned media outlets against Hasina's speech and announced on Facebook, "Tonight Bangladesh will be freed from the pilgrimage site of fascism." Many of the protesters chanted slogans demanding Hasina's execution of hundreds of deaths during last year's uprising against her. The uprising was among the country's worst unrest since independence. Hasina urged a UN investigation into the deaths. The country's leading English language publication, The Daily Star, reported early on Thursday that a wave of attacks overnight targeted several houses and businesses belonging to Hasina's Awami League supporters. Now bringing you latest updates on today's market trends. Global stock market faced a broad decline today, with major US indices posting losses. The Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 444.23 points, that is 0.99%, closing at 44,303.40, reflecting investor concern over economic condition or upcoming policy decisions. Similarly, the S&P 500 dropped 57.58 points, that is 0.95%, to 6,025, while the Nasdaq saw a more significant decline of 1.36%, shedding 268.59 points to settle at 19,500. The Russell 2000, which tracks the small cap stocks, also dipped 1.19%, suggesting a broader sell-off across various sectors. However, the VIX, commonly known as the Fear Index, rose 6.71% to 16.54, indicating increased market volatility and investor caution. Internationally, Canadian markets followed the downward trend, with the S&P TSX Composite losing 0.36% and the S&P TSX 60 declining 0.43%. Brazil's Bovespa index suffered a steep loss of 1.27%, dropping 1,605 points, while the Chile's S&P IPSA slid 0.22%. Mexico was one of the few bright spots, with the S&P BMV IPC gaining 0.27%, up 142.96 points, signaling investor confidence in the country's economic outlook. Overall, today's market performance reflects heightened caution among investors, likely influenced by macroeconomic concern, corporate earning report, or geopolitical uncertainties. The stock market exhibited a mix of gains and losses today, with several companies experiencing significant movement. Leading the gainers was Big Bear.ai Holdings, that is BBAI, which soared 26.88% to $8.59, with an impressive trading volume of 231 million shares. This surge suggests heightened investor interest, potentially fueled by developments in artificial intelligence or strategic business moves. Nvidia, that is NVDA, also saw an uptick, rising 0.90% to $129.84, indicating sustained confidence in the semiconductor giant as demand for AI-driven computing remains strong. Meanwhile, Uber Technology and Supermicro also posted solid gains of 6.59% and 7.21% respectively, reflecting bullish sentiment in the transportation and tech hardware sectors. On the losing side, Tesla faced a notable decline of 3.39%, falling to $12.90% to $361.62%. The drop could be linked to investor concern over production challenges, demand outlook to the broader market sentiment around the electric vehicles. Similarly, Amazon saw a decline of 4.05%, losing $9, which may attributed to earning results or macroeconomic factors affecting the e-commerce and cloud computing markets. Overall, today's market activities highlights ongoing volatility, with investors responding to earning reports, economic indicators, and sector-specific trends. As uncertainty persists, traders remain cautious, keeping a close watch on industry's development and broader market conditions. We'll be right back after a short break. I'm Shweta Simar. Keep watching Millennium Time Bulletin.
Millennium TV, bridging communities worldwide. We broadcast diverse international content from Europe, Asia, Africa, and now right here in the USA. Watch us via Roku on your smart TV. Download the Millennium TV app from the App Store to stream our shows anywhere, anytime. Millennium TV.
Welcome back after the break. I'm Shweta Simar from New Delhi and you're watching Millennium Time Bulletin. Now let's look at some sports highlights. The 24-year-old signed for the Blues for about $1.1 million on a 4.5-year deal. The previous record transfer fee was set last year when Zambia striker Rachel Kundanji joined Bay FC for the Madrid CFF for $1 billion. Girma's signing is the third time Chelsea has broken the record, having signed Pernil Harder for $3.3 million in the 2020 and Myra Remis for $1.2 billion in 2024. I'm so happy and really excited to be here. It doesn't feel real, said Girma in a club announcement. There are a lot of things about Chelsea that made me want to come here. The culture, the winning mentality, staff and players. It's a top environment to learn and grow in. Right now, that's what I'm looking to do. It is easy choice for me. Girma had made 44 appearances for the USWNT and played every minute as Emma Hayes' team took gold to the 2024 Olympics in the Paris. Look, she is the best defender I've ever seen, said Hayes, who won the 7 Women's Super League WSL title during her 12 years at Chelsea after the USWNT semi-final win over Germany in Paris, according to ESPN. I've never seen a player as good as her at the back. She's got everything: praise, composure, and she can defend, she anticipates, she leads. She's unbelievable. Girma has also a key part of US NWT squad at the World Cup in Australia and New Zealand in 2023, a year in which she was named US Soccer Female Player of the Year. Joe Root and Steve Smith, their names define an era. Their wickets are prized, but for Jadeja, they have simply been regular scalps in his remarkable career. Dismiss them 23 times and you own them. Few bowlers can claim to have repeatedly outfoxed two of the greatest batters of the era, but Jadeja has done it with a mix of cunning control. He sent down a skiddy darting delivery at over 100 km per hour. Jadeja has trapped his prey for the 12th time. With that, Jadeja marched into an elite club, becoming only the 5th Indian to claim 600 wickets. That's all for now. Thank you for tuning in. Stay with us for more updates. Log in to stay updated with the latest news on our social media platforms: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Millennium News 24. Don't forget to check out our YouTube channel, Millennium News 24. You can watch us on Android and iOS devices, as well as on Apple TV, Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, and all smart TV platforms. Enjoy entertainment and latest news with us. Download the Millennium TV app, Millennium TV USA for Android, and Millennium News on Google. Thank you for being part of Millennium News Channel 24.